Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Thanks for joining us. Here are your top stories.
5 years is a long time when you're thinking about being out on the street.
The passion is in working with, our students and what we do, but that the passion doesn't pay the bills.
They said only half an hour. Then they announced it, okay, 1 hour. Then announced it 2 hours. Then announced it 5 hours. Then announced it 6 hours.
A massive city plan to help address homelessness in our region is moving forward. It hopes to bring together affordable housing, mental health services, and addiction supports all in one downtown location. City Council just passed the plan last night, but some say it should have happened sooner and it will take too long to open. The CBC's Jason Vio joins us now to explain all of this. Jason, first, let's start with this new plan. What does it look like?
Well, Katerina, it'll be a much bigger, more comprehensive and permanent version of what's behind me, the old Water World building on Wyandotte Street East. This opened up as a temporary hub for people who are homeless, kind of serving as a shelter during the pandemic. Right now, though, it's still being used kind of as that. It's a daytime drop-in for those who don't have a home, access to food and clothing for them as well, and serves as a referral to other community services. City Council has now, though, given the green light for administration to look for locations up to 100,000 square feet for this new hub. To give you some perspective, this Water World property is nearly 160,000 square feet total, and it will have affordable housing for people experiencing homelessness baked into the site, and also have supports within 2 kilometers for people who may have mental health issues, be involved with the justice system, or may be struggling with a substance addiction. Now, in the report, the city says it's those people who are falling through the cracks with how things are now.
Jason, how are people who are homeless reacting to this plan?
Well, I met a man named Truman Dow here at the Homelessness and Housing Help Hub right behind me this afternoon, and he's been without a home for about 3 months now and typically spends his nights sleeping at the Downtown Mission's overnight sanctuary, and says that this concept, this idea is a good one and wants to see it implemented as soon as possible and opened up quickly because there's such a need. But the city says that this will take about 5 years to happen.
5 years is it might as well be a life sentence, really, for most people, because they go into the drugs, they end up everywhere. Well, I like the idea. I just hope they actually follow through with it and actually give us the opportunity to get into proper housing and affordable housing. That's the biggest problem right now, affordable housing. Everything. There's rooms on Kijiji for $1,100. We can't afford $1,100. We're lucky to get $600, and that's most people on the streets.
Now, Dow is one of about 251 people on the streets in Windsor each night. That's according to a snapshot the city took on one night in March of last year, just to give you a sense. And that's a 27% increase from 2018. Now, there are also 77 people on a priority list whose housing and support needs exceed what's currently available.
Jason, there are many organizations that already provide supports for people who are homeless in our region. So how will they fit in with or pair with this new hub?
Well, it's really meant to be a collaborative approach, so everybody is involved, and they have been consulted leading up to the development of what we're seeing now, and the hope is that they will continue to be consulted as well. For the Downtown Mission, though, specifically, they hope that this now opens the door to eventually find a new permanent home of their own within the next 2 to 5 years, and they hope that to be close to wherever this hub will be. And the executive director of the mission calls this an exciting and innovative time in terms of helping people who are homeless in the community.
We're definitely willing to work with the city and all of the other partners at the hub to make sure the individuals who are in those transitional units will be supported and served in whatever ways they need service, so that they don't end up back in a homeless situation.
Now, when it comes to the city's new homelessness hub plan, now that it's been approved by City Council, administration can start looking for locations that meet their needs and start solidifying some of those relationships with community partners who want to be involved in this. But the timeline, again, is pretty rough. They say 5 years. That's what they expect to take to see this come to fruition. And the cost is a big unknown. There hasn't even been a preliminary estimate released publicly about how much all of this will cost. But the city does say that they will look to the provincial and federal levels of government for some financial assistance.
Thanks for this, Jason. CBC's Jason Vio live downtown tonight. Travelers say they're stunned with how Via Rail handled delays on a recent trip. Their train traveling from Toronto to Windsor had mechanical problems, turning a 4-hour trip into 12 hours.
Usually I take my car when I say, okay, no, I want to be relaxed. Let me get the train. And I wish I didn't do it.
CBC News spoke to multiple people on that train. They say it broke down near Ingersoll around 10:30 last night. The train was stuck there for 5 hours before people were able to leave. People said that the power was out and toilets weren't working properly. Buses eventually arrived for passengers headed to London, but people traveling to Chatham and Windsor told us they had to wait for another train. One finally arrived around 6 this morning, dropping people off in Windsor around 8. Via Rail has not replied to requests for comment. They gave passengers a free ticket.
So are you done with Via Rail, or?
I'm done. Even they told me that they want to give us free for what? Even they didn't ask if we gonna refund your ticket. No, we're gonna give you a ticket. Who gonna use the Via ticket train when we have this experience?
We have breaking news on the manhunt for Miles Sanderson. Police say they have located and arrested Sanderson. The RCMP say he was taken into custody in the last hour. This ends a desperate search across multiple provinces. Sanderson has been charged in the stabbings in Saskatchewan over the weekend. Authorities have now released the names of all 10 people who died. Today, family members of some of the victims spoke to the media. The CBC's Adam Hunter is in Saskatchewan and sends this report. But first, we want to warn viewers that details in this story are distressing.
The mass stabbing attack that left 10 people dead has rocked the community of James Smith Cree Nation. 9 of the victims were from the community, including Mark Arcan's sister Bonnie Burns. Burns and her adult son Gregory were killed on Sunday. Arcan says one of his nephews was stabbed but survived.
How can somebody do this to women and children? Words can't express the pain that we're feeling.
When Arcan received the emergency alert on Sunday morning, he made the 2-hour drive to the First Nation. He discovered that his sister's home was a crime scene.
She was killed by senseless acts. Her son, she was protecting her son. She was protecting these 3 little boys. This is why she's a hero. She's a true matriarch of the First Nations way of living, which is our women take care of our homes.
On Wednesday morning, the coroner service and RCMP released all of the names of the victims. 9 of the 10 are from the James Smith Cree Nation. They range in age from 23 to 78 years old.
Through our family, we have one of our aunties that's been affected by this traumatically, as she's related to 7 of these victims. That was her home community. So you can see the devastation of what this is to our family.
The attack has generated international attention. On Wednesday, Queen Elizabeth sent a message saying, "My thoughts and prayers are with those recovering from injuries and grieving such horrific losses. I mourn with all Canadians at this tragic time." Candlelight vigils are planned in 3 Saskatchewan cities on Wednesday night. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
RCMP say they'll have an update about Sanderson's arrest later tonight. And we want to remind our viewers about the supports available for those affected by the recent events. The Hope for Wellness helpline is available to all Indigenous people across Canada. Counselors can be reached by phone or online chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the toll-free number is 1-855-242-3310. Even though kids are back in school, education workers are now working without a new contract. Educational assistants, or EAs, work with children who have special needs. They argue the demands of their job are not reflected in their pay. CBC Windsor's TJ Deer spoke with an EA and their union heads about how she and her colleagues are struggling to make ends meet.
Katie Pazonka has been an EA with the Windsor Catholic School Board for 14 years. She says EAs can work only 35 hours a week, 42 weeks out of the year. The rest of the time, they're laid off. Pazonka's annual salary is $39,000. She says many EAs work a second job.
That takes away from my home and my 3 children, that when I leave a work location, a school that I commit my whole self to, then I go on to a part-time job 2 or 3 days a week, or give up my entire Sunday to work at my other job in order to make, a livable wage to take care of the rising costs of everything.
The local union says Pazonka's situation is not unique, adding that EAs need more resources.
The continual cuts means added work every year. There's never a break. You never feel like you get to catch your breath. And folks are exhausted, they're overwhelmed, and frankly, a lot of them are looking for alternatives.
The union wants EAs to get an additional $3.25 an hour. It says the province is only willing to offer between 33 and 55 cents an hour. The Ministry of Education said CUPE met with the province 8 times over the summer, but the contract between education workers and the Ontario government expired last week. Megan Ball has seen the impact EAs can have on students with special needs. They're people her children rely on.
I really don't think it's that much to ask our ministry to step up and provide what they really need. And I've seen it with my own kids. They are in grades 1 and grade 3, and they both read at grade level with autism. I'm sorry, but they've worked real hard, and that's because they had some of that time one-on-one for a good year. Every kid deserves that.
3 days of negotiations will start next Friday. A strike vote is scheduled for the week after. TJ Thier, CBC News, Windsor.
You met Megan Ball-Rigdon in that story there. She's mom to 2 kids, both on the autism spectrum. And we asked how she felt sending her kids back to school with essentially no pandemic restrictions. She says socialization is so important for her kids, but she's trying to balance that with safety.
We know COVID's an airborne virus, and I guess my main concern is we really are treating this like a normal school year, and it's not. We have seen now our class sizes are getting back to normal. Obviously some students have chosen to stay virtual, and if I see COVID starting to explode, unfortunately we're not really tracking it, so it's going to be hard to tell, but if I feel like my kids are in danger, I may go that route as well. But when we have things like autism, socializing is so important for them, and I really want to make sure that they have that opportunity if it's at all possible. I do worry with my kids because I mask my kids still, and I know sometimes they are off at the end of the day, or other kids have things to say about that. Luckily, our school environment is very supportive of families who are taking that choice to still mask, but the real problem is it doesn't do the full benefit if everyone isn't doing it.
While some parents like Ball-Rigdon are concerned about the lifting of measures like no more masks, others are celebrating them. I'm joined now by a LaSalle mom, Joanna Conrad, for more on this. Joanna, thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Joanna, your daughter Vivian has Down syndrome, and she's been doing remote learning on and off for the last couple of years. So yesterday's moment was a big one, and you actually sent us a video of that moment when she and her siblings went off to school yesterday, and I just want to play that for everybody. So a lot of joy in that moment. So can you tell us what that was like?
Yeah, it was a very joyous morning for us. We were celebrating the fact that it's back to school, and so, back to routine and regular lives, and, a little bit less stress on mom and dad. from entertaining kids day to day, but more so celebrating the fact that they're able to go back to school and they're able to do so the way they should be, without masks, without restrictions, without worrying about this, that, the other. I mean, it was a great day for us. And, you know, it was something that we didn't even discuss because I didn't want to get into it with the kids. I just wanted them to go back and be normal, happy children to be back at school.
And can you speak a little bit more about that, about why it's so important for Vivian to be in a classroom with other students?
Of course. So, I mean, Vivian has Down syndrome, which is an intellectual disability. And while I can't speak or generalize for the entire Down syndrome population or parents who have children with Down syndrome, I can tell you that from our perspective, you know, the parents that do share the same view I do, we know that our kids require additional supports in order to learn. My child, and I have 3 of them, but my child with Down syndrome does not learn the same way a quote unquote neurotypical child does. She requires face-to-face support. She requires interactive play. She requires ongoing support with everything from how to hold a pencil to, you know, how to actively participate in things, especially when it comes to her interaction with other children. She requires assistance in terms of being able to communicate, to be able to read faces, to be able to read lips for speech development. You know, there's a lot there that she requires that I can't provide her at home. You know, and it's something that she needs in an interactive setting, which is what school is for.
I have to ask, because we know that getting COVID-19 is much more serious for somebody like Vivian. And given your take on some of these measures, some might be surprised about your perspective. Can you just share a little bit more about why you feel that way about the lifting of measures?
When Vivian was born, we were immediately concerned, obviously, about a number of different things. Her health was one of those things. And, you know, for Vivi to this day, anything that she gets sick with can become more serious in a split second. So us being concerned about her safety and or her health is not a new thing, and it will never go away. COVID did not impact that in any way. Of course, we were, you know, concerned, and we continue to be concerned, but we're concerned about a number of things. So at the end of the day, when I started looking at the detrimental impact that COVID and the restrictions were having on her, those took greater precedent than anything that COVID had implied at that time was going to do for her. So when it comes to her learning, her ability to speak, her ability to play with her peers, her ability to develop socially, academically, you know, so on and so forth, all of those things were taking a hit. And those things were taking much more precedent than any type of threat from COVID. I mean, at the end of the day, whether it's COVID or any other virus, these are things that we know are not going to go away. So why am I going to allow fear to dictate what my daughter is going to be capable of at some point in her life? I'm not going to be okay with that.
Really appreciate you sharing your perspective with us. Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you.
Joanna Conrad is a mom in LaSalle. The Bank of Canada has raised its key lending rate by 0.75 of a percentage point. It pushes the interest rate up to 3.25%. Today's hike is the 5th consecutive interest rate increase this year. The central bank has moved aggressively to try and cool the economy and tackle high inflation. And it warns that more increases are likely. It blames the high inflation across the globe on supply chain disruptions, the pandemic, and the war in Ukraine. A heads up for runners. People participating in next month's Detroit Free Press Marathon need to fill out the Arrive Can app. The race isn't for another 6 weeks, but today organizers sent out a reminder. Anyone running the marathon or international half marathon must fill out the app. Windsor West MP Brian Massey calls it, quote, the most outrageous chapter of the application's story, calling for an alternative solution for runners. Here's what a marathoner in Michigan had to say.
As of today, we were informed that we've got some additional requirements that we have to meet in order to obtain entry into Canada. To be perfectly honest, when I saw the email and it said Arrive Can on it, I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of it before. And I immediately thought, you know what, I've already got global entry. Do I got to pay money and sign up for another one of these things? And basically it means that I have to download an app. I have to fill out some information. And one of the most important things was that I have to make sure that I open the app and update it the day before the marathon or the night before the marathon. It's a minor thing, and it's not something that's going to prevent me from being able to run the race.
A lovely live look outside there. Your weather is coming right up. Dahlia Ashby joins us now for a look at our weather. Dahlia, this beautiful week continues.
It's been lovely today, and more bright and positive news coming your way, Katerina, and to all the kids who are, going into school. Well, have gone today for the rest of the students, and for the days to come, some lovely summery recess conditions over the next few days. There is some rain, but we'll talk about that later. The normal high usually this time of year is 24 degrees. We're sitting well above that at 25, especially when you factor in the humidex. The normal low is 13, and we're sitting at 12 degrees. So current temperature in Windsor right now, 24 degrees. Goderich a little bit on the cooler side, 21 degrees, and London 23. So overall, overall, sitting in warmer temperatures. Then you factor in that humid X that we're talking about, feels more like 27 degrees. So a lot warmer today, and we're going to be feeling that humidity over the next few days and that high pressure giving us those clear skies. Sarnia, 25 degrees. And like I said, Goderich, even though it was 21 when we factor in that humid X, well, it feels like 25 degrees. So even in Goderich, it's a little warmer. And then tonight, are we expecting any rain? And the answer to that is no, because like I said, that high pressure giving us those clear skies. But the winds are gusting quite heavily still. I mean, overnight it will be gusting at 28 kilometers an hour. So a nice breeze tonight. And then it will start to slow down and cool as we head into tomorrow morning. But as you're dropping off your kids to school, you might notice that it's still a little breezy out there. Tonight, it's mostly clear skies, and that will carry on over to the next few days as well, giving us those clear evenings and a lovely sunny days ahead. Across the board, southwestern Ontario, it'll cool down 12 degrees, Chatham-Kent 12, and Sarnia 14 degrees. Look at that, bright, beautiful sunny days. Sunday and Mondays when we see the rain, but that's still a little ways ahead. So kids don't have to worry about that until another few days.
We're not thinking about that.
Exactly.
Thanks for that, Dahlia.
Thanks, Katarina.
When we come back, we have some more updates for you, so stay with us. Millions of Canadians lost their internet service when the Rogers network went down in July. At the time, the federal government demanded that telecoms put a plan in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Today, the minister announced that plan.
Going forward, should one of these providers be faced with a major outage, the other companies commit to providing the support and the assistance necessary so that Canadians can still reach their loved ones, reach out to 911 and conduct business transactions. As part of this agreement, the companies also commit to providing clear and timely communications as Canadian expected to keep Canadians and appropriate authorities informed about response and restoration during these outages.
Rogers said the failure in July was caused by an error during an update. An update on the breaking news out of Saskatchewan, where authorities say Miles Sanderson has been taken into custody. Sanderson has been charged in the stabbings on Sunday that left 10 people dead. And we're learning now that police located him near Rosthern, Saskatchewan. They say there is no longer a risk to public safety. Sanderson has been missing since the stabbing rampage on Sunday. Earlier today, police issued a warning that a man with a knife was driving a stolen vehicle near Waka. 10 people were killed and 18 injured on the James Smith Cree Nation. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also find all of the updates on the situation out of Saskatchewan on our website. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.